When I think about kind of what causes stress within my role, I think a lot of it stems from how do I make sure I'm maximizing what we have available to us from a communications and PR resource, and also what we don't have too. I think that's one of the biggest challenges about PR is the fact that the ideal story is always kind of somewhat out of reach for a lot of companies. Those are the kind of things that keep me up at night of thinking about, okay, how do I tell a story well? How do I make sure I'm maximizing the resources I do have, and making sure I'm communicating that clearly too. I think that's the biggest challenge for most PR folks is having that two-way conversation of here's what I can do with what I have. I think that there's a lot of passive thinking that happens both for journalists and for communications people and PR pros. I think that passive thinking is really good for us. I think it's how we can think more creatively. It enables us to think more creatively. I think the challenge is during the workday there isn't that time to think creatively or think passively because you're expected to be productive in a variety of different ways. And so, yeah, when you do get home, like you said, when your head hits the pillow, for me, it's when my daughter wakes up at 5:30 in the morning and I'm like half awake. That's when I start thinking about the things I have to do for the day or how I'm going to recraft a pitch or who I have to follow up with. I'd be surprised if most people didn't think about their jobs at least a little bit on the weekends. I think that most good PR people I know, and I think this extends to marketing overall, I'm sure it extends to journalists as well, is always constantly thinking you can do better. Getting 3 hits of coverage is great, but it's better 5 pieces of coverage. And so I think that there's always that kind of dichotomy of, it's really great to be getting this industry coverage, but getting that tier 1 press is always top of mind. And I think that's a lot of stress that people get from executive teams, especially when you work with startups, which I don't currently now, but I have in the past. We'd love to get an entrepreneur, or we'd love to get an Inc., or we'd love to be in the Wall Street Journal. It's like, okay, well, what news do you have that deserves to be there? And I think a lot of the times people don't have answers for that, but there's still the expectation of, well, people need to know about us. I equate working in PR to gambling. You have a lot of no's and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of stress that comes with not getting the answers you want, but those wins and those big stories and even those smaller stories can really kind of be that boost for your day or your week. And I think that's why a lot of us like to do it too. I think another thing that, ways that we can reduce stress is just be nicer to ourselves as PR folks. I think, like I said before, part of the reason we like what we do is there is constantly that opportunity to do better and achieve more. And once you get a hit, it's on to the next one. But I think just being kind to yourself, and I think for everybody else, being kind to your colleagues of understanding that this is a process. And just because you have a great relationship with a journalist or have had great relationship with a journalist doesn't mean that they're going to cover a story. And I think that ways we can be better to ourselves is to be better at communicating internally to those challenges. What do we need to do our job better? What we can't do because we don't have it. I mean, not having data is a reality sometimes.